Fine. So, so yesterday we have seen some server technology and Tomcat, right? So let's move into Servlets today. So now, so what is Servlet? Servlet is something which is a web-based application, right? Which resides on server side and generates some dynamic page. So that is what is a servlet. Let me just give you some. So let us say this was a server. We were talking about some server yesterday, if you remember, the physical machine, right? And there was some web server. This is a physical server, which is computer, or we call it a server, let us say. And we had some physical, we had some web server. So which was Tomcat. Right. Now, so we have our own application which contains all the JSP servers and all. Now how does it work? It's like this. So whenever
Are you recording this?
I'm sorry?
Are we recording this?
Yeah, I hope yes, we are recording this. I'm recording this, okay? I'm recording this. Not, I'm using my GoToMeeting directly, right? Yeah. Okay, so okay, fine. Let me start even this recording so that. Fine, not a problem. I started even the second one. Okay. So the first server-based scripting which was introduced into market was CGI. So this was the first server-based script which was introduced. Now, whenever we talk about server-based script, right, what exactly it is? This is something which is mainly used to get the request and pass it on to some program. That is what is a server-side script. So this is commonly called as Common Gateway Interface, right? So this is CGI, which is Common Gateway Interface. Now, how does it work? Is like this. Let us understand for CGI. So this is not something which is component of our Java components or server, but this is something which was the first server-side scripting being designed for web applications, right? Let us first check this one so that you can understand the servlets much better. Now, let us say there is a server. Right. So let us say there is a server. Right. So now here, what happens is there will be always one layer which accepts your protocols. Now this is something which is a HTTP acceptor. This can be anything. This can be any web server. Right? Now let us say there is one request. Right? And let us say I have my base application over here, which is it can be anything. So let us say this base application is running on CGI process. Right? It is running on something like CGI process. Now what happens? So whenever you get a request, right, so this request is being accepted by some server, right, some web server, let us say, which can accept HTTP. Now immediately whenever it accepts, so this will route that request to, let us say, some CGI. Now how CGI works is, whenever there is a request, there is a new process being created. There is a new process being created using the CGI shell. I can say CGI, that's it, shell. Now, this is something which is important to understand. I hope you guys understand now what is the difference between a process, a task, and a thread, right? So I'm saying that it starts a separate process itself. For each request, it starts a process. Now, if there is one more request, again it will start a second process. Again, separate CGI shell. So one more request, again it starts one more process, right? Now you can just think of one process is nothing but a separate memory is being created for that request itself, right? So this process will stay until the complete request is accepted, processed, and then got the response, right? Interpret the response and send it back to the client. So till that point, the whole process stays. Now here, whenever we are talking about process, right, which means this is the one. So if you go to task manager, let us say, right? If you go to task manager, right, you can see here I have started some applications here, right? I have some applications. So let me say it's Eclipse I have. When I go to process, this is one process. Now you can see here, one process is taking so much of memory. So this memory is nothing but the memory being used by this process, or the RAM memory being used by this process among all. That is what it is. Now you can just imagine if there are some, so for an web application, how many requests will be there? There will be so many. It won't be like 1 or 2 or 3, right? If you have Google, how many guys will be triggering Google? There will be so many. Now you can just think of, if for every request, if there is a new process being created, what happens to the server? The server can't sustain for more requests, right? That was the main disadvantage in CGI, right? Every request, it used to create a separate process, which means separate memory is being created for that process itself, right? Even if you just say google.com, you are actually requesting a simple page, but even for that, a new process is created. Until the response is delivered, this process will stay. That is what is CGI. That is how CGI works internally to the server-based program, right? Now, it is like, if there are more requests, obviously as processes are increasing, the response time will decrease, right? Obviously, right? As number of processes increases, which means the server goes slow, which means every process will start working slow, which means that delivery time of response will get obviously slow. Now here, again what happens is the number of requests will be limited, right? Because you have to limit the requests again, so that you have to bear this problem. Again, there is something which is very costly, right? You have to maintain such a supercomputer which can accept so many processes, or which can start so many processes. Even if you are maintaining that, right, you have to maintain a limited request, which means, let us say the server can accept some 20,000 requests. That's it. If some guy who is, the next guy will have to wait until one of them disconnects. That is how it happens. Which is in current market, this will never work. Right? Everyone wants a faster response. They don't want to wait until some other guy is completing his task. Right? That's what happens. So, and again, as CGI, these components are written in C and C++. That's why this is not independent one. This is completely platform dependent. So you have to deploy the CGIs wherever there is a compilers of C and C++ and Perl. Anyways, even this is designed also in Perl, right? So you have to find the compiler for those things. So that's why it is not a platform independent one, right? So that is what happens. Now here, why do we call C and C++ platform independent, and why do we call Java platform independent? No, what is the basic difference? So why it is dependent and why it is independent? There is a simple layer of its concept, which is like this. So let us say, if you are talking about C, right? So let us say this is your computer, which is I would say this is your your CPU. Let us say, right? Let us say you are actually working on some C++ or C. What happens here is, so whenever there is a program, right, written in C or C++, right? So this program will be built and will be executed using your CPU, right? the executor or compiler will be there integrated with CPU. But in case of Java, let us say this is CPU again, right? What happens? So let us say this is the program written in Java. Right? Now what happens here is, this program, if you want to run this program, right, this doesn't depend on CPU, because on CPU we have created one more layer called JVM, right, JVM, which means this program will not run, we just have to interact with JVM, because JVM will just take a memory of CPU in order to do task. That's it. It will not completely rely on CPU. That is what happens. Java, wherever you go, if you want to run, that's why we say just install some JRE, right? That's it. It will take care of everything else. Even the security part, even the portability part, everything. That's why we call Java as a robust technology, right? Why do you call Java robust? Because we have the intermediate layer which takes care of everything, like memory leakages or security problem, anything. This will take care. But here you can see it is directly interacting with CPU, which means you have to create everything here itself. But obviously, if you want to create everything in CPU, right, which means in each and every computer you have to go and set up the things. But here we could just ask people to just install JRE because it is ready-made. That is why we call Java as an independent, and other languages which directly work on the CPU compilers as a dependent language. That is what happens. That's why a CGI is completely dependent one, and that's why it is something which is not being used now. Now, how does servlets come here, or how does servlets works in the same way? Now let us see that. Now again, let us say that we have server here. Now inside the server, let us say we have created a layer of web server. Let us say, whenever I say web server, just keep in mind that I am talking about Tomcat, or any other server also working the same way. Now in here, what happens? Every web server, what happens is it creates something called web container. If you have something called container, we basically call container. So whenever we come to servlets, we will understand something called, what is a container? We call basically it as a servlet container, right? So in this case, it's a web container. Now what happens here is, in this web container, so whenever you start your Tomcat, right, which means a separate process will be started. One process is started, because this is our web server, obviously, right? Or whatever. So whatsoever application you open in any operating system, a separate process will be created. I am talking about application. Now here, a Tomcat is a server, which is basically, we can take it as a software. It's a separate software. In order to start this, you need some memory to run. So that is what you are taking one process, let us say, right? Now, so this process is started. Now your container is ready. Now whenever you get a request, right? Whenever you get a request, now what happens is, so this request is taken as a separate thread. As such. So I'm talking about in one single process, for one request, a thread is being created. And for multiple requests, right? So multiple threads are created. These threads in turn will talk to the common application where you have all your JSPs, or maybe servlets, or some other thing. Now where is this happening? This multiple things is happening in a web container, which is also called as a servlet container. So whenever you call any startup style servlet, let us say this layer, whatever I'm showing, is a calling server or startup server, startup servlet, right? For each and every request, a separate thread is created, right? And this thread is exclusive for one request. Now this thread will stay until it gets a request, sends it to the application, gets back the response, and give it back to the user. Till that time, this thread will be active. So once the complete request and response is done, this thread will be collapsed. All the threads work in the same way. Now you can see we are just using one process, and servlets have interpreted all the requests as a separate threads. Now you can say, as we know that threads are lightweight process, right, or lightweight threads. Why? Because thread will share the memory of a process. Now here there is nothing like multiple processes are created. So that's why we say servlets or web containers being provided are lightweight process, right? Because it creates a thread. So that is how your servlets works on, right? Request, because we'll be writing a single class, right? Servlet is something which is single. We cannot create, if there are 10,000 people who are trying to access our web application, we cannot create 10,000 different servlets, right? Servlet is something which accepts request, creates a new thread, sends it back to the JSP or next servlet or file something or HTML, process it, get it back, and send it back to the user or server. Now, when we come to servlet, we may be getting more flavors on this, right? So this is how it works. This is what is something which is done in a servlet, which is called as a separate thread for processing your request, and that is why you give it back. Now here, if you could see here, the advantage of these servlets are like so this is API, servlet API, which is completely written on Java. Right? It is completely written on Java. That's why we call servlets as a portable server-side scripting. Okay? You can actually port this because you just have to install a JRE, right, to make your servlet independent of your the CPU operating system type you are using. Okay? And inside Java, right? So all these servlets are being provided in a package called Java X.servlet. Now you can see again, servlet is something which is under the extended package of Java. Right? So this is what we call it as Java X.servlet. Right? Now here, so we have already understood that whatever packages or classes are developed or embedded in this package are completely written in Java, because we have one more package which is java.packages, right? So in this, it's a colleague of all different languages. There are some classes like AWT which is written in C, right, and C++ and all. But this is something which is completely different. Now this is a package which we'll be using to generate our servlets, right? It can be any servlet. We'll understand what are different servlets we have, how does or what are different protocols it can accept. That is what the servlet we're talking about. Excuse me. Right?
Srinath?
Sorry. Yeah, Johnny?
One question. Is ASP similar to CGI?
Yes. It is. No. ASP is similar to a servlet.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah. CGI is something which is being used by mostly the Perl applications, which are legacy applications in the current market. Right? It is not being used by anything. But ASP is something which runs on IIS. Right? ASP is active server storage, which runs on IIS. Basically, this ASP is for Microsoft technologies, right? Which runs mostly on IIS itself. So IIS is a web server actually. This is again a web server used for deploying your .NET applications. So this is something which is Internet Information Services, right? Same as a Tomcat, right? We use yeah.
So on Tomcat, we cannot run ASP, right? Is that how it is?
Yeah, we cannot run ASP, but yes, we can actually use Tomcat to deploy some of the .NET applications. Where, see, ASP is something, or servlet is something which comes with your, support of your, technology itself. When we are talking about Java, right? If you create a simple servlet, it acts so internally. You're actually creating a servlet container which will automatically create multiple threads. In the same way, if you are creating any .NET application, right, which means if you are able to deploy that application in any server, which means you are actually activating your REST. Now, you can also deploy your .NET application on Tomcat sometimes with some configurations, which means it also takes care of ASP. Right?
Okay.
That's how it is. Okay. Fine. But yes, this is mostly used for .NET application, and this IIS is not platform independent, because IIS needs some installations and some setups and all, right? So it's completely works on Windows kernels, right? So that's why you have to in order to move this to Linux or some other server, the setup configuration is different. That's why, right? But yes, all the scripting architecture, as we have learned for multi-threading in servers, right? The same is the case with ASP.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So that is what we have here because of this multiple thread. Just keep this in mind. I'll show you this part practically when we go to servlets, when we actually move on with servlets and see the bigger thing there, right? Don't have to worry about that. I'll show you how this, why I'm calling different threads, and we'll see different, whenever we are getting different threads, requests, how the thread is being created, right? We'll see that. Okay. So that is what is what about server. Now let's get back and just see. Let us create a simple with the servlet. So we have to understand the life cycle of servlets anyways, but let us start. Let me create some basic web project. So today we'll understand the basic web project and where exactly are the different folder structures of the web project, right? And then we'll go for the life cycle and different components or different specific methods of the servlet. Right? Now here in Eclipse you have many type of projects. So let me just go and find new. Let me just say other, right? Where you can see, okay. So when you click on other, right, it will give you the complete set of everything. It gives an XML type and all. So in order to get rid of this, you can just say file new, just select project. When you select project, right, it will give you the complete information of only projects. So these are the different ways you can actually create projects. You can create a C, C++, GC projects you can create something like projects from CSV and all. Now among this, so we are more interested on the web part, because we have a Java part which we have already seen, which is a Java project, and under Java itself we also have something called and build file. So this is something and which is separate technology again, right? We'll understand this. I will be giving some heads up on this, right? So this Java project is something which is completely standardization of your Java, which can be used for complete API or library development, right? You can use this for complete thing. Now here you also have web here, where you have different things like static web or web fragments and dynamic web part. Now these what happens is we basically go for dynamic web project because this will automatically include all your libraries of all your libraries of your Tomcat, right? All your libraries of your web, whatever libraries are supporting our application for creating the web application, right, will be automatically added here. But it is not the case in here, right? Let us see how it goes. Let me create it and the project next. Now here you have to just give some attention here. Now here anyways it's a project name. We can just say maybe called Servlets something project name. Now here the next one is the target runtime. Now you can see by default we got it as a Apache Tomcat 7.0. Now how do you work this? if you remember, we have already configured our server here, right? That is why we are actually getting a Tomcat 7 here. If you don't configure, you have to configure a new runtime here. A new runtime is nothing but we are actually configuring a new Tomcat. Let us see that. Now let's go back to servers, right? Now you can see one server here, right? Let me just delete this. Right? And this server part, let us just delete this. Okay. We're just saying we don't want it on this. Now let me create a new dynamic project, or you can directly select here, right? Which is dynamic project. Now let us say servlets. Right? Servlets. Now you can see, even if you select this, right, it won't be, it's just a name here, right? We'll see how we can actually change this part, because we don't have any of them configured here, right? Now here, next one is dynamic web module version. So this you'll understand when we move on with our servlets and JSPs. So what exactly is the main thing of this? So basically, you will select 2.5 if you want to configure your servlets part, or if you want to make it auto, you can select 3.5, 3.0. Right? You can just select 2.5. Because why do you select 2.5 again is whenever you select 2.5, right? So this part, next part, configuration, right? Here you can see so many things. So let me go to modify here. Now here, whenever we come to web services part, right, we will be learning this. I said CXF. So these two are the web services part which we get, right? We also have the JAX RX, don't worry about that. So we have access to and CXF. So these two come under 2.5. So let me select 2.0 and click on modify, right? Even if you select this, right, it will not be, it won't work in a better way, because the combination of dynamic web model and configuration to add your access projects is mostly 2.5. Right? That's what. But as of now, we don't need a new web service. Just say a custom configuration. Just leave it there. Right? So that is what is these three. And anyways, these are something. If you want, you can actually create them now based on the modification you are doing. Right? Let me just say next. Now this is a part. Anyways, we have already seen this part. So whatsoever process we create, right? Whenever we build them, we want to when you go and sit in this folder part. So that is our build part, which is build and process, right? Which is under source. So even here you have a source file, source folder here, which is a main mother folder where you will be creating all your classes, servlets, whatever .java file will be created under your source, right? But here all the classes, whenever you build them, will go to the build/classes folder. Right? That is what. Anyways, you can also edit this if you want. You can also make this some other folder. You can right. You can add some other folders in beneath, and you can do that. Right? There is no issue at all. But yes, this is something which is standard, so don't change this, because whenever you are creating WAR files which to deploy on server, right? So this should be consistent again. You have to remember this. So why to change this? Just keep it as it is, right? Click on next now. Now here, there is something which is very important. Now this content directory is something where you will be adding all your libraries like JSPs, your CSS files or JavaScript files or not, right? Which is web content. You can make any name you want. You can maybe make web, or sometimes some people go for web here, direct web. But yes, by default, it is recommends to stay with web content. I'll show you where this will be created, right? And the context total servlet, the name of our context currently working project. We just gave the name as servlets. Don't get confused with this context root. This is something which is the name of our project, and the name of project will be copied here in the context root. If you want to change, you can change this part. And now the very important part is the web.xml, right? So by default, actually this will be unchecked. By default, if you are waiting, maybe it will be unchecked. Sorry guys, I'm not feeling it. So here web.xml. So mainly this web.xml we call it as a configuration XML, right? So where we actually mention a few things of, this will be understood by Tomcat or some other servers, right? Servers always first go to the configuration files. So that's why we also call this XML as deployment XML or deployment descriptor XML, right? So always check it out, because even if you are not using this mostly, then just make sure you are actually adding this file, right? That's why in the first step itself, right, basically what we do, we just add the project and click on finish. Don't do that, okay? Always try to, because this configuration is something, anyways, in between of your project progress, right, you can change any of them, but it is not recommended, right? If you are selecting 2.5 in long run, after few months, if you are changing this, which means you have to face other consequences also. So just think about the requirements and then create a web project. Because for normal Java project, it's fine. You can just select anything and create, because it's a normal standard edition, and it will learn for any, if you want to third party, you can just add them anytime you want. But this is something which you have to make sure you create it first itself. That in between, if you want to change again, it will be a headache again, right? That's what it is. Just say finish. So when you click on finish now, this will add you the new project service. You can see here. Now here, so you can see this was a normal web project network client, right? Now you can see the folder structure here. It just gave the source folder direct where you can create classes, and it gave us something called Java IC libraries, standard edition libraries. All the libraries are added here, which are mostly used for our maybe core component development. Now here you can see in our web project, right, it is also the same, almost the same architecture here, but there are a few folders which are, you can see the JavaScript resources, right, where you can also see Java resources here, where you can see some Apache Tomcat libraries here. By default, it will add it up whenever you add this, because we have given some path to this, right? That's why we will add it. It will add some more JRE libraries, whatever is needed, right? Apache Tomcat. So in this Tomcat, you can see the Servlet API, right? Which is very much needed. By default, your Eclipse Juno, right? If you go for older ones, right, you may not be getting these APIs, all these APIs, right? You have to add them, from your Tomcat folder. Now, if I go to my Tomcat folder, let me just show you these APIs here. So let me go to Tomcat. We have configured our 41 version. If you go to bin, right? Lib. If you go to lib is a folder where you get all the. Now you can see here, you have your Servlet API. Now you can see all the APIs, whatever was in lib folder is copied here. You can see all of our Catalina, right? All this Tomcat util. Why? Because we have given, now also you can see the path, right? We already gave one path here, right? So that's why it just got. That's why before configuring any servlet, right, or any web project, always try to configure your server path. But anyways, it just kept this server path in mind, so that's why it gave all. Otherwise, what you do, you have to create your own. You have to add the libraries exclusively. Don't do that. So before starting anything, I would recommend you to add a server and then go ahead, right? Now, anyways, we'll do that again. So this is your libraries path. In libraries, you can see some Tomcat now, which means this servlet project is ready to support your JSP APIs, all your JSP APIs and servlet APIs, right? We have that already been added, right? Now, so that is what is these two resource folder. Now here you have a build path here. So now anyway, this build is something where your classes, whatever the JSPs, now your classes .java files is created, will be converted to class and will be copied to this build path. So this will be automatically exposed to the whole project. Now if my JSP is using class, it will be searching in a build path. If my servlet is using some other class files again, it will be searching the same. That is on PDF. Now the next one is web content, which is we have seen this as a web the contents part here. where this is a folder where you can create all your JSPs now. Right? You can create direct JSPs, you can create multiple folders now. And in WebDynamo you can see you have link folder. If there are any other libraries, like if you want to copy any other libraries here, you can just copy it here. Right? Anyways, you will be doing that part from other configuration. Right? If you want to add any library to the project of the web, right? So what we'll be doing is you just go to this properties, right? You have something called Java build path. Always remember, this is the path. You will be working on this mostly, right? If you want to add any third-party components, right? You'll be doing this. Now here, you have a Java build path here. Now here, you can see there is something called libraries. So this libraries folder is something which is, I have just shown you here, where whatever libraries are already been added are added now, right? Now if you want to add any new, then you have so many options here, right? Either you can add jar, whenever I click on add jar, which means in my project itself, it searches whether there is any library being added. Now as of now there is no, but if you add anything here, lib, right, any external jar here, right, which means you are actually configuring your build path. Now this build path is something, I'll show you that. You can see here, this build path is, this is the build path. This will be exposed, this libraries will be exposed if you import anything in these classes, right? So these libraries will be automatically exposed. That is what is the properties of PS. If you want to add anything, you can add. If you want to add a jar from outside world, you can just say add external jar. Now you can see when you say add external jar, you can see here, okay, so it is some struts, some other batches going with struts. Where is that? Even the struts will be adding the same way. So go to C Tomcat, right? If you don't have the Tomcat libraries here, you can just go. Oops. You can just go in it. Right now you can see lib. Now these are the jars you have. You can just select any of them, open it, and this will be adding to the selected library. That is how it goes. Fine. This is something which where you can add your third-party libraries. But as of now, as we have already configured, it already took all the resources you want. Right? That is what you have. Now here in this part you have source folder over here. Now you can see initially your source folder will be empty. There won't be anything here. Right, so this is a place where you will be creating all your classes, all your different things over here. Right? All your servlets, whatever .java file is here, right? You will be creating completely under source folder, because it has to be built up and copy the bytecode path into your build classes folder, right? So that's how you use this. And all your JSPs and all will be creating under web content, and both of them will be exposed with all your libraries which you have, right? Because by default these library paths will be exposed in your build path, right? Now this is what is a different things we have in service, but anyways we have something called JAX web services. We will understand this part when we come to web services, right? So this is something which is dynamic or web service. We also have JXRS web service. RS is nothing but your REST services. So anyways, whenever you add anything, right, all your components will be added. Even if you are using it or not, yes, these things will be added. If you want some more things, you can just go for some other addition of components. Right? Don't worry about that. We'll be looking into that later. Right? Now, this is your basic web project where you can actually create and all, right? So now, as a web project is ready, right? Now you can go ahead with creating servlets and all, but we'll see it tomorrow, not now. So before that, let us see the configuration again, which I have shown. We have removed it, so that is why we don't have servers folder here. So in order to configure again, you have to select this part, click on next. Now you can see the project, right? Because we have one available project here, which is servlets one. Now you can see this. If you want to make this project configure on this, right, you can just select and just say add, which means whatever Tomcat we are going to configure, right, it will automatically know that yes, I have got one project to automatically deploy. As of now we are doing automatic deploy. I'll also show you how to deploy in server, right? Now as of now, let us say I don't have any project to configure. Let's say finish. Okay? Now this will create a servers project, right, and your Tomcat being configured here, right? So that is what is how you configure, and all the libraries of Tomcat which are Catalina and all your servlet APIs and all, right, got copied automatically because you have already given this, which has got servlet APIs and also your Tomcat API and all. Right? So that is what is your creation of your project, and that is how your servlet works. So let us wind up here. We'll see the next part, which is the actual servlet part. We'll start creating servlets from tomorrow. We'll first see what are the HTTP methods and what is the life cycle of servlet and all, and then we'll enter into the actual creation of servlets part. I hope till now I've explained much of the theory, which is very important to understand the server technology and how the the servers works, right? Which is very important again. Okay. So we'll meet up tomorrow and we'll see the first server creation, right? And then we'll see the life cycles and all tomorrow. And we'll also see how to deploy them and how does it work for us. Right? We'll just create a hello world server program and we'll see running on Tomcat and running in browser how it works, right? So until now, you guys have any doubts here, guys? Any part of the complete networking or anything till now? Fine. Right then, if you don't have,
Sheila, usually.
Rajula?
Yeah, it's just in general question like what we were using before servlet.
Sorry, what will be?
What was there before servlet?
What was there before servlet in a sense? In Java you are asking?
Yeah, in Java.
So initially, right, it was applets which was completely used as a, web programming. Before the servlets came, right, it was applet which was serving as a web application thing. It used to download our bytecode. It used to directly interpret everything, which means applet. Before that, right, Java.
It's like same like C, right? Applet was working like C. It's directly communicating with C.
It was directly downloading the code to the local actually. That is how it was working. Like whenever you create an applet, right, you'll be placing the HTML and the applet tag and classes or bytecode in your server, right? But whenever you try to access that page, it will download the complete bytecode of your class and then it used to work. That is how the web application used to work, right? It doesn't have a separate technology, but anyways, the web server will be there, any of the web servers. But yes, this is how communication is done through the applets. But after this servers came, right, so there was no use. That's why no one is using applet because it's a very heavy but yes, even now people are using applets if you actually want to communicate your local desktop. Where it is being used is, I'll give you some example. In your Oracle site, right, whenever you just go to update your local Java, right, so in Oracle site we'll be having something called verify the local version of Java. Right? Whenever you click on that, right, it is a website, it's a web page. Whenever you click on that button, it will actually access your local machine and check the version you have, right? Which is a very, no website, interacts with your local hard disk or any component of your local machine. It is because it's a security threat again, right? But yes, that is why whenever your applet tries to access your machine, right, it will give you a pop-up. Some other network keys, you would have seen this in some website site. Whenever you open it, you give some Java pop-up. It wants to allow public networks to access your, right? Will be so that is something which is applet is asking you to give permission to access your local machine. If you say yes, it will access; otherwise, it will deny. That is how it works. Yeah? Okay. But anyways, you have got much better ways here. Yeah.
So for one application, can it be there multiple servlets or like how does it work?
You can have multiple servers. Yeah. I haven't created it. You'll understand tomorrow. You can just create servlet in your store. You have a separate direct servlet itself. You can create any number of servlets as such, right? Each and every servlet will work in the same way, but you will be having one startup servlet, right? Right? That startup servlet I was talking about multiple threading, but each and every servlet work in the same way. You can have any number of servlets in your application.
Okay. Does it have any kind of capacity or limit that
no, it
cannot?
See, it all depends on it all depends on the capacity of the server you are providing, right? If you are providing a supercomputer, obviously, if it is capable of handling the bigger process, right, then obviously it can create any number of right. There is nothing specific that you have to create these many servlets, and in a servlet you have to create these many requests. No, there is not in that way. But yes, as you are saying, it all depends on the server you are using. Let us say the Stormcat is so heavy that it can accept any number of any number of requests. Then yes, you can go ahead with that. But if your server, if your machine is not capable of handling so many servers, that is a place where you go for load balancing. Right? You will create one more server, deploy the same application there. So if you feel that there are more requests, divert those requests to that server. That is called as a load balancing. Once you are done with this and all, then if I talk about load balancing, it will be much understandable, right?
Okay.
That is what.
Okay.
Fine. Any more doubts, guys? I can see someone thinking. Sorry, Swati, okay, fine. So that's it. Okay, guys, I'll see you in the next class tomorrow, right? Bye then.